It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, whatever day today is. Today is the 10th day of July. I had a complete brain lock there. It's been a little goofy this morning, as you can tell. I just ran back in. I had to take my car down for servicing today, and still got my mask around my neck, I just noticed, but oh well. Anyway, today, this is Travel and Cruise Industry News on this, the 10th day of January. There we go. Today is National Oysters Rockefeller Day, one of my favorite days of the year, because I will definitely go out someplace today and find some oysters and have some oysters Rockefeller. That's awesome. I'm an oyster lover. All right, we got some cruise ships sailing today from North American ports down in Port Canaveral, the Disney Dream, Independence of the Seas, West Palm Beach, Grand Classica. You know, that's going to be the Margaritaville paradise here in another couple months. Down in Miami, Freedom of the Seas. Knock on woods. 2 weeks from today, I'll be on Freedom of the Seas. Carnival Conquest, Carnival Sunrise, all sail from Miami today. New Orleans, you got the Carnival Valor sailing. Galveston, Disney Wonder is sailing. Out in Los Angeles, Long Beach, Carnival Radiance gets underway today. And in San Pedro, the Navigator of the Seas and the Viking Star. Headlines today, which we'll get to in a bit. Carnival Cuts 4 days off a cruise, and boy, I've got some thoughts about that one. Norwegian Youth Program Suspended. Wheelchair accessible transportation now available in St. Thomas, finally. And an unconfirmed story about cases on a ship and maybe some of the reasons why. And a whole lot more this morning, live at 11 o'clock. Guests on the Travel and Cruise Industry News podcast this week. Tomorrow, we've got London Times cruise editor Sue Bryant. We love Sue to death. She'll be with us tomorrow. We got a whole bunch of things to talk about, including her supplement that's coming out, 16-page cruise supplement that comes out soon. I don't think it was this weekend. I think it's maybe next weekend. But anyway, we'll talk to her about that. An Azamara cruise she was just on. She's supposed to be going to Antarctica. We'll see how that's going with the travel restrictions and so forth, which might be lifted now over there, but we'll get filled in by Sue tomorrow. Chris Wood's going to be with us on Wednesday. Flying disabled. He's been working for a couple of years now trying to get the airlines nationwide to do a better job of handling handicapped folks, muscling them on and off of airplanes. And then on Thursday, Jordan Taylor, our buddy from JJ Cruise, a new travel agent as well, will be with us on Thursday. Always good to catch up with JJ. Of course, Jared, most of you know, tested positive and has been under the weather. I had a message from him earlier today. He is feeling a little better today, so he thinks he may be starting on the mend finally. To access the podcast, of course, you can go to my accessible blog, which is accessadventure.net, and each day's episode is on the blog. So you can always check on today or go back to other days. And it's normally posted within 10 or 15 minutes after the show is over. And of course, you can also get it from wherever you're used to listening to podcasts, such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Pandora, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. To search for Travel and Cruise Industry News. All right, starting off, first thing this morning, I heard from Nikki and Roger yesterday. They're, of course, on board the Viking Orion in the South Pacific as they're now yesterday they were approaching Hawaii. They were a couple 100 miles away from Hawaii still, but getting close. And I'm not sure when they were actually going to first get to Hawaii. Maybe today. I don't recall that, and I have not heard from Nikki this morning. My plan was to use their pictures yesterday on the Cruise Amigos that they sent me yesterday. But if you watched the Cruise Amigos yesterday, you saw some self-inflicted technical issues. Somehow or another, I completely cut myself off the broadcast and spent the next 30 minutes trying to get on without taking Amigo John and Amigo Martin off. So they just carried on without me until finally I got back on, which was a headache. But anyway, I never did get around to going back and seeing Nikki and Roger stuff, which I had planned to do on that broadcast yesterday. So I'm going to go back and do it right now. That was a situation where there's a railing and it says, "Do not climb." And Nikki pointed out that the senior citizens couldn't climb over that if they wanted to, which is probably very true. And here's my question for you for the day. This is the exciting entertainment that they have on board. And of course, there is entertainment on board, folks. I'm just making that up. I mean, I love jigsaw puzzles. I thoroughly enjoy them whenever we do one here at home, but I quite frankly, I've never done one on a cruise. I stay too busy. Have any of you guys ever worked on a jigsaw puzzle on a cruise? I mean, I could see sitting there with the lovely scenery that looks like that's in the Explorer Lounge, out the window with the water going by and so forth, and just sitting there and working on it a little bit and maybe having an adult beverage and working on I don't know, a jigsaw puzzle, not a crossword puzzle, jigsaw puzzle. But anyway, I just wondered if any of you have ever done that. Oh, I see Nikki's in the chat room. She says, "Good morning at 6:30 here in the Pacific. We have our clock set back 1.5 hours last night. We aren't stopping in Hawaii, going straight to French Polynesia. Marquesas and French Polynesia. Okay, so they're not stopping in Hawaii. All right. This was a shot of the living room. And that's some pre-dinner entertainment. You can see the grand piano down there and I guess that's the atrium area. I'm not sure what it's called on the Viking ship. But this was the one thing that I found interesting from yesterday. And again, I apologize to Nikki for not being able to do this yesterday. That was a complete, self-inflicted technical issues on my part. But that's just a cheeseburger and onion rings, but that looks really yummy. The cheeseburger looks good. The onion rings look awesome. So I thought that was really good. And then Nikki says she loves cruise ship ice cream. That's gelato and a cookie. So anyway, the one thing that the picture of, in the evening, look how flat the Pacific is where they are right now. I mean, you're talking about calm sailing. That's some calm sailing right there. It looks like you're in a lake instead of out in the Pacific. But anyway, as always, thanks to Nikki and Roger for keeping us up to date. And if you're on the podcast, if you're listening on the podcast, down in the link to the podcast in the description, you'll find a link if you'd like to click over and catch a little bit of Nikki and Roger's pictures from on board Viking, or our next guest here this morning, which happens to be an interview. So with no further ado, let me bring you my special guest for today. My guest this morning on Travel and Cruise Industry News Podcast is Osman Zanzibar, a tour guide and tour operator who lives in Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar. Osman, tell us a little about what you do.
Okay, what I'm doing is in Tanzania, we have several places to see or to visit. Also, we do have beach and national parks.
Osman told me about a luxury solo cruise in July of 2022. Where does it go, Osman?
That is, it's called Zanzibar Island.
All right.
From Dar es Salaam to Zanzibar by flight is like 15 minutes.
Okay.
And also we are using ferry, which is 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Okay. The thing that fascinated me the most about this entire luxury solo tour is the safari day, where you'll be taken from Zanzibar Island to either Mikumi National Park or Serengeti National Park. And this is the kind of thing you might see. You might also ride a balloon and see the giraffes, lions, up close and personal. And of course, elephants and lots of other things in the park. That's the tour. It's a luxury singles trip. It's in July 20th to the 27th. Something you might want to consider. Just get in contact with Osman. And Osman, we thank you for being with us. And hopefully we'll get some people that might end up coming to Zanzibar. Thanks, Osman. Osman, thank you so much for your time. And we'll talk to you soon.
You're most welcome. Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
All right.
You are most welcome.
And that was the boat zipping over to Zanzibar Island. And I may have made a mistake on the parks. I got a little confused on the national parks. As you can tell, this was a kind of a broken up interview. Partly my fault, partly it wasn't the best interview in the world. I understand that, but I want to get the information to you. That might also be Sedani National Park. I'm not sure which one it goes to on that specific tour, but Osman has some neat stuff going on there. So if you'd like some information, if anybody's ever heading toward Tanzania, let me know, and I'll get you some contact information. And by the way, his name is Osman Zanzibar, and it's Zanzibar Island, and not related. So I was a little strange on that one. All right. It's time to take a look at the news, but first, a word from one of our network sponsors. All right, back with a look at the news today. In most cases, I support the cruise industry and cruise lines, especially in their decisions to keep guests and crew safe. But I'm having some real problems with something that Carnival pulled this weekend. Guests scheduled to sail on the Carnival Legend yesterday received a letter Saturday, the day before, informing them that Carnival wanted to provide an update regarding their itinerary. Quote, given the rapidly evolving COVID-related circumstance around the world, the letter explains, and in an abundance of caution, it will be necessary to modify the itinerary of your cruise. Now that sounds like maybe a port got bumped off, as has happened to numerous ships where they don't want to let a ship come into port, right? The letter goes on to say the voyage will now operate as a 10-day cruise, returning to Baltimore 4 days early on Wednesday, January the 19th, instead of on the 23rd. Excuse me? You're coming back 4 days early? Unfortunately, this also means we will not be able to operate the Panama Canal itinerary you were expecting. Now, remember, folks, they were supposed to sail yesterday. They found out about this like 24 hours before sailing. While the letter cited concerns regarding Omicron, the Carnival Cruise ambassador, John Heald, added a secondary reason on, one of his posts. I'm afraid we had to change the cruise. This was because of expected bad weather. So now John Heald is going to start projecting weather 7-8 days in advance. That would be 9 days in advance in the Panama Canal. I'm sorry, that's phony. This is because of expected bad weather, and with this and with current COVID protocols, we had to change the cruise. The ship's original itinerary had Legend visiting Half Moon Cay, Ocho Rios in Jamaica, Puerto Limon in Costa Rica, and then making its way through the Panama Canal, a partial sailing of the Panama Canal and back out. Finally, it was expected to visit Grand Turk before returning to Baltimore. Half Moon Cay is the only port to remain unchanged on the new itinerary, which will also feature 6 sea days and stops at Antigua and St. Martin. Well, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of difference from 6 sea days and stopping at St. Martin and Antigua and Half Moon Cay and a 14-day Panama Canal. That's a bucket list cruise for most people. And then Carnival went on to say, of course, those are the scheduled itineraries, but Carnival makes clear that those too could change. We are working closely with local health officials in all ports and your cruise itinerary, says the company. Unfortunately, the rapid spread of Omicron variant may shape how they view even a small number of cases, even when they are being managed with rigorous protocols. As a result, we want you to know the local authorities at a destination could limit or deny the ship from entering the port. Now, well, we know that now, but this is a lot different, Carnival. Those who opt not to sail, now, so you could cancel out Saturday on the day before. You could cancel out and you could get a full refund. I would hope so. Plus a 25% future cruise credit. Well, that certainly is nice. Those who decide to sail the itinerary change will receive a 4-day prorated reduction in their cruise fare, a 25% future cruise credit, and an onboard credit of $245.80, which represents the adjusted taxes, fees, and port expenses. They're not giving you anything there. They're not having to spend that money, so they're going to give it back to you. And a separate $300 per stateroom onboard credit. Now, my question, folks, that maybe this is fine other than the disappointment factor for somebody that drove to the port and has their car there. So them getting in 4 days early, okay, you just go get your car, you pay less for parking, and you drive home. But what about people that fly to Baltimore to get on the cruise? They're back in Baltimore without their plane reservations. That's their plane doesn't leave for 4 days unless they get lucky. They've got no hotel reservations, no accommodations from Carnival on dumping them for 4 hours that Carnival announced with this. I mean, Carnival should have said, look, well, you stay on the boat for the 4 days. They don't even say that. I'm struggling to understand this whole situation from Carnival. And if you were on the Legend and you were PO'd as crap, I certainly would understand. I wasn't on that cruise and I'm PO'd. That's awful. That's awful, Carnival. In an email sent to book guests, Norwegian Cruise Line has announced that the temporary suspension of its Splash Academy youth program. In its place, a variety of family-friendly activities will be offered, but parents must attend with their children. So what basically has happened, in the way I look at it, and folks, I've never sailed with a child, so I can't say this firsthand. But it appears to me a lot of these programs for the youth on the board is a way for mom and dad to go dump the kids so they can go out and do adult things while the kids are being entertained. Well, that's not going to happen now on Norwegian for a while. They've suspended the Splash Academy, which is a supervised youth program for kids ages 5 to 12. The email reads, due to ongoing COVID pandemic and CDC guidelines, Splash Academy will not be offered, dropping off services during your sailing for children aged 5 to 12 years of age. So, book passengers have confirmed receiving this email for upcoming January and February sailings on the Norwegian Breakaway, currently sailing from New Orleans, as well as the Norwegian Getaway, currently sailing from Miami, transitioning to New York in February. So it's definitely going to be on those. Now, it's likely the suspension is going to be valid fleet-wide on all Norwegian ships sailing, though they haven't said that specifically yet. Exemptions may be made if individual circumstances on a voyage may permit or if local guidelines vary for non-United States home ports. Are these cruise lines, are they locking every little problem now on claiming it's COVID and that the cruise ports are doing all this? I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with the kids on board. I mean, it's more likely that you got kids on board that on some of these ships that haven't been vaccinated. And it's supposed to be that they're all vaccinated. So, I don't know, temporarily changing to a parent-accompanied model rather than a drop-off service of Splash Academy may also permit activities to be spread to more areas of the ship, allowing for better social distancing as well as enhanced cleaning and sanitation between the activities. As cruisers are rapidly learning in recent weeks, last-minute changes are becoming commonplace. Yeah, we're seeing that. This may mean canceled ports of call, itinerary changes, canceled entertainment, onboard activity changes, health and safety protocols are adapted to the rapid changing situation. That part of it I can appreciate, but boy, I still don't appreciate the Legend. I can understand. I mean, Norwegian's not doing away with the Splash program. They're doing away with how the parents drop the kids off. And that the activities that they normally were doing with staff, they're got to be done with the kids and with the adults. That's muddled to me. So, all right, for all my accessible friends out there, some good news for a change. Wheelchair accessible transportation is now available on St. Thomas, the gateway island to the U.S. Virgin Islands. It could be worse. That's the name of the company. It could be worse. Offers wheelchair accessible vans with drivers on an hourly basis for trips and tours throughout the island. The rear entry vans can accommodate 2 wheelchairs, and they are also the perfect solution for wheelchair accessible airport transfers. Additionally, it could be worse. Rents power wheelchairs, scooters, and manual wheelchairs if you're on St. Thomas. There's information services available at usvirginislandscbw.com or call area code 407-719-2365. That's in Virgin Islands. I debated on whether to mention this one this morning or not. And with all that's happening in the cruise world right now, I think it needs at least needs to be on the record as that I am watching this situation. There are unconfirmed reports that MSC Meraviglia returned to Port Canaveral yesterday with 169 crew and 60 guests. And as this report called it, infected with COVID. There is absolutely, at least as far as I can tell, no confirmation to this story whatsoever. Now, here is the situation. It quoted an unnamed source on board the Meraviglia. Now, I have a problem with that to start with. The other thing that I was that kind of set the radar off is the mainstream media, who I've been fussing at the way they've handled cruise ships and cases on board, hasn't said a word about this one. So 169 crew and 60 guests. I don't know the number of people that sailed. I think it's like 3,000. So that's going to be right about, that could be over the percentage that the CDC looks at. But the mainstream media has said nothing about it. The article also reported that at least one ambulance was waiting at the ship's home port when the ship arrived. Now, there's no evidence to why the ambulance was there. There's no evidence that they took people off the ship that had COVID by ambulance. There's no evidence, no information whatsoever, just this innuendo on this ship. Several of the bad ship reports over this past weeks were also rehashed in this article and went back to the CDC warning. So all that was in this article that comes from a man who makes a living suing cruise lines. That does not mean that I'm not following the situation, folks, but I am not reporting it as factual information yet. This is an unconfirmed report from a source I find sketchy at best. But it points out, folks, clearly, do not believe everything you read in today's world when it comes to cruising and changes and all of that business. So, all right, let's go over in the chat room, see who's with us this morning. Then I have to go pick up my car. It's now ready. So, let me bounce back up here. I see Jason popped in and said, is that a pink bandana? No, this is my mask from, I went to take the car this morning and I happen to have a mask that says I'm vaccinated and happens to be pink. So anyway, Tom Henry, hot air Tom's with us. He went to the doctor for his annual physical this AM. He wouldn't see me due to being sick. I tested twice and have a sinus infection. Hope to get an antibiotic to help kick the thing. We did a telemed instead from the car while we were in the parking lot. He agreed that I just have a sinus infection and did send a prescription to CVS, went inside for a blood test. Okay. Boy, that's going to be a topic for one day, my war with CVS now. I've dealt with them every day since I've lived in this town, this area. No more. But that's a whole nother story. Amy's with us. Hi, Amy. Hot Air Tom says, I put an order in with Amazon for meds for my cruises. After reading 3 threads in Cruise Critic about people being quarantined, I will self-test and self-isolate in the cabin. Do not submit to cruise. What? Oh, to cruise medical. I see that one down to on below. Sorry, Hot Air Tom. I didn't catch the carry on. Carol's with us. Hey, Carol. I guess Freedom of the Seas will be our backup if Celebrity Cruise does not go. Cruise is cheaper than 4 nights in the Intercontinental Hotel. Man, I tell you what, there are such good bargains out there right now, folks. If I wasn't already booked on cruises, and I'm not going to go playing the game of canceling and trying to book, I just don't do that. But anyway, man, there's some really good bargains out there. Sharon sent me a bunch of them last night. They're just awesome prices. Cindy's with us. She says, hi, everyone. One of the stories of quarantine off the Bliss in LA, not a good ending, and wondering if cruise lines actually have a real contract for quarantine hotels. That's what they say. One of the folks that I've talked to, and I was hoping to interview him, and we haven't been able to put it together yet, tested positive on one of the Royal Caribbean ships. And he had his car at the port. They drove him to his car. He got in his car and went home and quarantined at home. So that's happens if you've got a car there. It does not happen that way if you flew in. So, and like I said, Nikki was with us out in the Pacific, heading for French Polynesia. Cindy says, we play Uno sometimes in the evening, but no puzzles. Wine and Uno. Wine and Uno that's awesome. I like playing Uno too. Of course, Nikki's saying hello to everybody. Sharon says hello. Speaking of sketchy news sources, thanks a lot, Jason. What NCL is doing with Splash Academy is kind of what I was told would happen to me as a solo traveler. On my next cruise, I will not be allowed to sit near anyone, not in my travel party. Well, that's, we're solo folks. Ooh, boy, that's a tough one. Yeah, I can understand with this trying to keep the spread of the variant, but then we're solo, and part of the reason we go solo is to meet other people on cruises. I don't know. That's a toughie. Sharon says that means table for one at restaurants. We'll sit with empty chairs at shows. Was told bars on some ships won't let people sit next to people not in their party, that they're designated prior to embarkation. Well, I haven't been getting any of that kind of information on my upcoming cruises. We'll have to see once I get there, I guess. There's Elizabeth down at Cozumel. Hey, they're just popping in for the last minute. What did I miss? I guess I better watch the replay. Hope to have some big news for tomorrow's show, though. Awesome. I know what that news might be. And Sharon says to Hot Air to get well soon. All right, guys, that's going to wrap me up for this morning. As always, if you're new to this channel, we certainly appreciate it. We appreciate thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to this channel, we would appreciate that. Doesn't cost anything. Use the bell notification. You'll be notified when I go live or when I post a new video. If you're on the podcast, make sure you subscribe to one of the fine podcast sources so you'll know when the podcasts are up as well. And we appreciate the support of all of you guys. All right, that's going to wrap me up for today. I'll be back same time tomorrow, hopefully with some news from Elizabeth and Cozumel. That would be awesome. For now, this is the old fat travel guy. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully one day we'll meet on the high seas real soon. Later, y'all.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry
So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.